Another fundraising letter was sent out by the campaign. It was signed by one of the campaign strategists named Jim Messina. This letter was an attack on the Koch brothers, Charles and David Koch of Koch Industries. Well, the people at Koch Industries, it's Koch, by the way, Koch companies have fought back. They were slimed, they were slandered, they were libeled in this letter. They were accused of all kinds of things that are not true in this fundraising letter. But they are fighting back. Their lobbyist, a guy named Philip Ellender, President, Government and Public Affairs at Koch Companies, that's basically their lobbyist, wrote a letter, "Dear Mr. Messina, because every American has the right to take part in the public discourse on matters that affect the future of our country, I feel compelled to respond directly about a fundraising letter you sent out on February 24th denouncing Koch. It's both surprising and disappointing that the president would allow his reelection team to send such an irresponsible and misleading letter to his supporters. For example, it is false, Mr. Messina, that our business model is to make millions by jacking up prices at the pump. Our business vision begins and ends with value creation, real long-term value for customers and for society. We own no gasoline stations. And the part of our business that you allude to, oil and gas refining, actually lowers the price of gasoline by increasing supply. Either you simply misunderstand the way commodities markets work, or you are misleading your supporters and the rest of the American people. Now, this is the kind of stuff that we ask Republicans to do. Just fight back against these lies. So Jim Messina, this punk at the Obama reelection campaign, sends out a fundraising letter. The Koch brothers have a business model designed to make millions by jacking up prices at the pump, and they don't even own a gas station. They're in the oil and gas services industry. They go out and discover it. They drill it. They add to the supply. They end up keeping prices down. The letter went on, contrary to your assertions that we have committed $200 million to try to destroy Obama, we've stated publicly and repeatedly since last November that we have never made any such claim or pledge. It's hard to imagine that your campaign is unaware of our publicly stated position on that point. Similarly, Americans for Prosperity is not simply funded by the Koch brothers, as you state. It has tens of thousands of members and contributors from across the country, from all walks of life. Further, our opposition to this president's policies is not based on partisan politics, but rather on principles. Charles Koch and David Koch have been outspoken advocates of the free market for over 50 years. They have consistently opposed policies that frustrate or subvert free markets, regardless of whether a Democrat or Republican was president. Now, if the president's campaign has some principled disagreement with the arguments that we're making publicly about the staggering debt the president and previous administrations have imposed in the country, the regulations that are stifling business growth and innovation, the increasing intrusion of government into nearly every aspect of American life, we would be eager to hear those. But it is an abuse of the president's position and does a disservice to our country for the president and his campaign to criticize private citizens simply for the act of engaging in their constitutional right of free speech about important matters of public policy. The implication in that sort of attack is obvious. Dare to criticize the president's policies, and you will be singled out and personally maligned by the president and his campaign in an effort to chill free speech and squelch dissent. This is not the first time the president and his administration have engaged in this sort of disturbing behavior. As far back as August of 2010, Austin Goolsbee, then the president's chief economic advisor, made public comments concerning Koch's tax status and falsely stated that the company did not pay income tax, which triggered a federal investigation into Mr. Goolsby's conduct that potentially implicated federal law against improper disclosure of taxpayer information. Last June, your colleagues sent fundraising letters disparaging us as plotting oil men bent on misleading people with disinformation in order to smear the president's record. Those accusations are baseless and were made at the very same time the president was publicly calling for a more civil conversation in the country. Now, it's understandable that the president and his campaign may be tired of hearing that many Americans would rather not see him reelected. However, the inference is that you would prefer that citizens who disagree with the president refrain from voicing their own viewpoint. Clearly, that's not the way a free society should operate. And we agree with the president that civil discourse is an American strength, and that's why it's troubling to see a national political campaign like yours apparently target individual citizens and private companies for some perceived political advantage. I also hope the president will reflect on how the approach the campaign is using is at odds with our national values and the constitutional right to free speech. This is a devastating letter in response to a bunch of false allegations in an Obama fundraising letter sent out by Jim Messina targeting Charles and David Koch of Koch Industries. This is how you do it. Now, I don't know how widespread the letter is. It's Philip Ellender again, the president of the Government and Public Affairs at Koch Companies Public Sector LLC. But this is how you do it. And this is what Obama's not used to. Obama's not used to people. The Republicans in the House don't fight back like this. The Republicans in the Senate don't fight back like this. The GOP and the RNC, they don't fight back like this. Obama's not used to this.